The trial of the Templars took 5 years. Midway through, the King of France had 54 Templars burned as relapsed heretics, quickly ending a brief but spirited Templar defense. Finally, in March 1312, 5 years after the arrests, the Pope announced the abolition of the Order of the Temple of Solomon. All of their vast lands and treasure were handed over to the Knights Hospitaller, much to the fury of the French king. Philip immediately sued the Hospitallers for the legal costs of the trial. All of Europe was stunned. The abolition of the Templars was unprecedented. Many still refused to believe the Templars' guilt, but Europe's crowns could not resist the rich pickings of the Templar properties.
In England, for instance, Edward II took over the Templar lands and the Templar treasury, and he made assignments on these lands and on this money. And although in the long term, once the Templars were suppressed in 1312, the property was transferred to the Hospitallers. We know from Hospitaller records that the Order of the Hospital was still trying to get hold of lands that Edward II had assigned to political friends and political favourites of his in the late 1330s. We know from Hospitaller inventories that that's the case. So once the process had started, it was equally damaging to the temple in those countries where the monarchs had, in the first place, been quite sceptical of their guilt.
In the year 1314, the two most senior Templars, the last Grand Master James of Malay and Geoffrey of Charnay, were burned alive as relapsed heretics. Ordinary knights who confessed and repented were given prison sentences and were then allowed to join other orders. Over nearly 200 years of warfare, 20,000 knights had died fighting Islam, but in the end, it was Christianity itself that destroyed the Order of the Temple of Solomon. Today, little remains of the Order's empire, ruins of enormous castles, a few remnants of the vast European network, which once owned more than 900 preceptories. However, modern warfare, trading, shipping, communications, banking, and farming all owe something to the innovations of the Knights Templar.
The history of the Templars taken overall is a very neat story of rise and fall, of initial popularity, of initial humility, which turned into overweening power, arrogance and avarice, ultimately leading to their trial. In fact, I don't think that that is a very good way of looking at their history. I think that we are far too much influenced by the fact they were brought to trial. All the time, therefore, if one's trying to examine the history of the Templars in the course of the 12th and 13th centuries, one must try to do it without bearing in mind the trial that occurred, to try to think as if the trial never happened, and then look at the history of the Templars. And I think one would find it would look rather different, because in my view, the trial was not a direct consequence of any actions or omissions that could be laid at the Templars' door in the period from the 1290s onwards. I think that the action against the Templars in the trial was largely generated by circumstances within France, and in particular circumstances within the Capetian government at that particular time.